How much coffee do you need to make 10 cups of coffee? When you're hosting a big event or want to spend some time with your work friends for a quick meeting, it can be tempting to buy an entire pot of coffee. But there's no need to throw out the leftovers after one round. Learn how much coffee is needed for 10 cups in this video, and then see if you can make it yourself. Caffeine is a drug that has been shown to have some benefits in the long term, but can also come with many side effects. One of the biggest questions people tend to have is how much coffee is for 10 cups? Making coffee for a group of people can be time-consuming, especially if you are the only one who drinks it. But with the right recipe and other ingredients, you can make enough coffee to last all day. The typical size of a mug. Most people use mugs that hold about 12 ounces of liquid. This is the size of a typical coffee mug. You will need about 6 ounces of coffee to make 1 cup. This means you can make 2 cups of coffee with 1 profile. Of course, there are different sizes of mugs and cups. Using a smaller face or cup, you will need less coffee. You will need more coffee if you use a giant mug or cup. It is best to experiment to find the amount of coffee that works best for you. The typical size of a mug is about 12 ounces. This means you need about half a cup of coffee to fill a profile. If you are using a standard coffee pot, this would be equivalent to 2 tablespoons of coffee. A typical mug holds about 12 fluid ounces or 360 milliliters. To make 12 ounces of coffee, you'll need about 30 grams of coffee beans. This is equivalent to about 2 tablespoons, or 1/8 cup. If you're using a coarser grind, you may need slightly less coffee. If you're using a finer grind, you may need slightly more. The typical Cupa cup size holds about 8 fluid ounces or 240 milliliters. To make 8 ounces of coffee, you'll need about 20 grams of coffee beans. This is equivalent to about 1½ tablespoons or 3/8 cups. If you're using a coarser grind, you may need slightly less coffee. If you're using a finer grind, you may need slightly more. The typical size of a pot. A typical pot holds about 32 fluid ounces or 960 milliliters. To make 32 ounces of coffee, you'll need about 80 grams of coffee beans. This is equivalent to about 6 tablespoons, or half a cup. If you're using a coarser grind, you may need slightly less coffee. If you're using a finer grind, The typical size of a cup. A typical cup of coffee is about 8 ounces. So, if you want to make 4 cups of coffee, you need 32 ounces. This is the equivalent of 4 cups of water. The typical size of a cup is around 8 ounces. This means you need about 2 ounces of coffee to make 1 cup. However, this can vary depending on the strength of the coffee and how much water you use. A typical cup of coffee is about 8 ounces, so you would need about 2 cups to make 16 ounces. This assumes you use a standard drip coffee maker with an 8-cup carafe. If you're using a single-serve coffee maker, you would need 8 cups to make 16 ounces of coffee. Of course, the amount of coffee you need to make will also depend on how strong you like your coffee. If you want your coffee on the weaker side, you might only need 1 cup of coffee to make 16 ounces. If you like your coffee on the firmer side, you might need 3 cups of coffee to create 16 ounces. So, how much coffee do you need to make 16 ounces? It really depends on your personal preferences. If you like your coffee on the weaker side, 1 to 2 cups should be enough. If you want it on the firmer side, 2 to 3 cups should be enough. How many cups are there in 1 liter? There are 4 cups in 1 liter. So, if you need 2 cups of coffee, you will need 1/2 liter or 500 milliliters of water. How much coffee do you need to make 10 cups of coffee? There are approximately 4 cups in 1 liter of coffee. This means you need to make about 8 cups of coffee to make a whole pot. Of course, this depends on your cup size and how much coffee you like to drink. If you have a smaller cup, you may only need 6 cups of coffee. You may need 10 cups of coffee if you have a larger cup. Thank you for watching, coffeeeternal.com.